What's up, everybody? I'm Destin Gary. Joining me today is Arekkz
What up?
and Dantics. And this is a little show we do called Loot Drops. Thank you all for watching us today. This is our first show in a little bit. We've all been busy with E3, getting married, typical life stuff that people go through.
We all do get married together, just letting you know.
Oh, I see. It's off already, is it? No, I'm just and on today's show, we're going to be doing a lot of post-E3 catch-up with each other. And, just we invite you guys to sit around with us. So we all got to play a few different games. I have some stuff I want to talk about. These guys have stuff they want to talk about. We're going to talk about Outer Worlds, a game that has piqued all of our interests as big fans of the Fallout series and Obsidian. We're going to talk about that EA Anthem talk that has been going on out in the wild, which has been really, really interesting. And our Monster Hunter Pro, Arekkz, is going to talk a little bit about Monster Hunter World, Monster Hunter World Iceborne.
Yep. Longest name ever. I can't wait for that alpha remix version.
Yeah. And that is going to be the show today. We welcome you to watch. If you could watch over on twitch.tv/the Destin channel, that does help me pay for the audio uploads and such. So thanks. So let's get right into it and talk about Outer Worlds. So this this game I've been really, really interested in. I missed the last demo by like a minute because I ran into the PR lead for it, and he's like, yeah, we just did our last demo. So I was super, super bummed. We might talk about Destiny 2, but we're going to get through all the other stuff first, you guys. So, yeah. Outer Worlds, you guys got to see it. I have no idea what you got to see, but tell me your impressions. What did you think? We can start with you, Arekkz, seeing you're on the left, and I usually go left to right.
Sure. So I'm probably going to go in with like a very different perspective to everyone else because I enjoy what I saw. I am coming from the background of someone that is not a Fallout fan. I have tried to play them before, but I have just. I know. I'm sorry. Everyone's gonna be like, "What the heck?" I know, but yeah, I tried to play their Fallout games before, and they just didn't click with me. I can completely understand the appeal for them, and I understand why people like them. I don't know whether it's for me. I don't know whether it's because I just don't like the setting doesn't appeal to me, or I don't know. It's because there's definitely aspects of Fallout that I should like, but for some reason it just didn't resonate. So I've never really been a Fallout fan. However, going into Outer Worlds, but going into this one, to be honest, it wasn't actually really on my radar too much until Dantics actually mentioned it in one of the shows before, and then obviously I've kind of saw that it was E3, and then having seen the presentation, it was actually it looked really cool. Like, the worlds are really, really kind of interesting, and I feel like maybe that's partly why. Maybe the kind of Fallout, the bleak aesthetic, which is a little bit kind of boring to me, whereas this is kind of like slightly more colorful, slightly more just like I'm on like a alien planet. It almost kind of you almost sort of think like Fallout meets like No Man's Sky in terms of aesthetics, and you kind of get that bright, colorful feel.
True.
Mm-hmm. And then as a result, I was like, oh, you know what, I like this. Like, I just like bright colors. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm a simple guy, but yeah, I like bright lights.
If you guys are kind of curious about the game's aesthetic, the thumbnail today does feature one of the NPCs from the game, I believe. So, yes, there's a lot more color in the world. It's a lot less bleak. I mean, it's probably still bleak in terms of narrative, but we'll have to wait and see more about that. So your take was you like the color aesthetic. What's the gameplay like?
So gameplay. Obviously, for those, I'm still kind of aware of Fallout. I think there's sort of some parallels to be drawn from that anyway. Obviously, you'll be familiar with it. You'll kind of feel at home there. Gameplay wise, we got a demo where we went through. They started off in this town. They kind of went around. They were speaking to different people, kind of meeting some of the different people you would sort of meet in the town. And they teamed up with two different teammates. So they kind of had different. I believe they had different class setups. And then they essentially went off on a mission where we had to go and find. I can't remember what his name was. Dantics may remember this better. But basically, they went off and had like a typical sort of mission flow. So you have abilities, you have like special abilities, and your teammates have those as well. So you can call on those in battle. Obviously, different weapons and whatnot. But yeah, if I throw to kind of Dantics, maybe he'll have a better kind of breakdown as to.
Yeah. So Dantics, that initial story quest that you go on, how does that trigger? Does it have the typical dialogue trees? How does it go?
So the overarching theme of production for this game was choice. They wanted the players to feel like they have of it. They want you to go through the game thinking, hey, I'm doing it this way, but potentially I could do it this way the next time around. So the way the quest was actually triggered was that the character Charmed quest giver then trusted.
Oh,
and gave him this.
Your audio dropped a little bit. Sorry. What were you saying?
Hear me better now, baby.
Yeah, your cutoff might be a little harsh.
Yeah, sorry. All right, so to actually use dialogue to get this quest, so there was many choices. There was charm, intimidate, lie, choices based on what other skill types you had. So if you're in engineering, there's probably that kind of skill will come up for dialogue. But in this case, he charmed the quest giver and got this awesome quest to basically go to this Borst factory, which is this pig factory, where they've been genetically modified to have bacon-flavored tumors that fall off their body. So I thought that was real creative. Like there's this dark overtone with this game, but it's all kind of balanced by this humor. Anyway, so the character, yeah, go on.
So dark satire humor, very, very Fallout. That sounds right up my alley. Sorry, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just like what I'm hearing so far.
You're basically employed by a criminal organization that has a front to invade another criminal organization as a front to kill the president, I think, of the company, so this other criminal organization can take over. Now, the planet itself is really interesting, like Arekkz said. It's a planet, or a badly terraformed planet. It was meant to be an Earth-like planet, but terraforming went wrong, and instead of the plant life dying out, instead of the fauna and flora dying out, they went stupidly big and dangerous. So the corporations all abandoned this planet and left. So all these kind of criminal organizations came up. So it looks very Wild West kind of Firefly, if anyone has watched that series.
I'm willing to bet a lot of people watch Firefly.
Yeah. Are you sure you heard of it, guys?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways you can approach this quest. You can go out and find a disguise, and then that disguise works with your like hollow field device, which I'll go through soon. You can also stealth in. There's a off to the side, and one of the playthroughs that I didn't get to see, friends who went and saw the Outer Worlds presentation, they went through that pipe and they stealthed around and used lockpicking and stuff like that. They didn't use that for me. They used the hollow one, which I'll go through. Or you can just shoot your way through, or use leadership to kind of get through that mechanic, which I'll go through as well. But
so one second, Dantics, you're still dropping like every first word or so. It may be your cutoff on your mic, but why don't you check that really quick, and I'll throw it to Arekkz, who can tell me a little bit more about the mission as he perceived it.
Yeah, so we actually, fortunately, it's actually worked out quite well, because we did get the stealth playthrough as opposed to the other one that Dantics had. So for our one, it actually resonates quite well, because I quite like stealth in games. So yeah, for our one, they definitely you kind of came into this factory through this kind of sewer entrance, and you come behind and you see all these genetically modified pigs with all these bacon tumors on them, which doesn't look that great. But I mean, aesthetically, obviously, it's impressive. But I mean, the picture is not that nice. And then you sneak up behind the pigs, and they've got these robot enemies that are going around. That they are, you got human enemies which you need to sneak past in a kind of more traditional manner. The robot ones they kind of have a fixed viewpoint. So they were trying to sort of sneak around. And then you got to the point where you got up to these terminals, which you could then hack, because of course they had the appropriate skills for it. So that's, of course, that lends into the whole choice nature, because if you hadn't been spec'd in the right way, you then wouldn't have been able to interact with the terminals to be able to sort of like pull off that. You'd then have to go and complete the mission a different way. So you definitely have all those different choices. But then we got to we kind of got to the end of the mission, and then you kind of got to that typical. And this is how I knew that I was like, for a game that I wasn't really sure whether it would be my thing, I knew I was kind of involved, because they got to the end of it. We met the person that we were then obviously tasked with taking out. They started speaking to you. They were obviously then trying to sort of turn you against the person that put you on the contract, and then they cut the demo, and I was like, wait, I want to know what happens. I want to know what happens next. Yeah. So the fact that I was like, I was hooked. I was like, Okay, maybe I'm invested now.
So with the stealth takedowns, are there like stealth mechanics? Like, can you do takedowns or anything like that, or is it just you do it more through persuasion?
So the stealth stuff that we did, they didn't actually take down the enemies. They specifically avoided. So what happened was before we went into the sewers, there was like they were doing the open world combat, they were just fighting things. But then when they went in, their stealth, they actually managed to avoid any kind of detection. So we didn't actually get to see any takedowns. Whether that's a thing, I'm sure that will be a thing. But yeah, they specifically kind of wanted to try. They made a point of saying during the demonstration that they tried to do this a couple of times and then it went wrong. So they invariably then had to go gunners blazing. So the fact they actually managed to pull it off, I think they were quite chuffed.
All right, so that was your gameplay demo. That's what yours was like. And you had something completely different, Dantics. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I had the James Bond kind of infiltration playthrough. Am I still cutting out? Am I good?
I think I hear you good. You sound a little lower.
Your voice sounds like super deep now.
Yeah.
Super deep. Jesus Christ, what's going on? All right, let me rejoin. Give me a sec. I'll rejoin.
Okay.
This is brilliant.
Everything's gonna break. We get Super Arekkz now. All right, we did it.
Oh dear.
Okay, am I back?
You're back, but I can
back.
barely hear you. But your audio is not cutting out.
All right. Come on, guys.
Your camera's still kicking in. Just give it a sec.
Let's work. Are we Discord? Can we work? Yeah. All right,
I was partly tempted. I was partly tempted to think, can I keep a straight face while Dante has a deep voice for the rest of the podcast?
Yeah, I'm just like, no, that's not gonna happen. All right, you're back on camera.
Is it working now?
It's working, but we can barely hear you.
Is that any better?
No.
No.
Like your mic, for some reason, sounds like it's not in the same room.
All right. Continue on. I'm just going to.
Sure. So while that's happening, to kind of fill in the gap. So one of the cool things they had, so they showed off a couple of sort of like
Better?
the.
Yes.
Oh yes. There we go.
Oh, okay. Well, you continue. I've got heaps to say, but you continue. This Discord doesn't want us talking about the outer.
No worries. I was just going to say the one other cool thing was like the way they showed sort of the super ability. So when they had the for the other classes, you could, because obviously you have your teammates that you can call on, and then they can use these in combat. And then when it does, you kind of get this sort of cinematic spin to sort of see them do what they do. So whereas sometimes they might do it in the background, you might not necessarily notice it. This time it's like no, they're going to draw focus and be like, no, your teammate's doing something cool.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. So it's kind of an evolution of the VAT system, like the execution montages.
Yeah.
And where you can see what other people are doing. Have you played a lot of Fallout, Dantics?
Yeah, I've played an absolute ton. I think I'm sitting at 500 hours for Fallout 4, and
That's
probably
insane.
around the same.
You have a problem. You should talk.
Yes, I do. I have a problem. You know what I did with that problem?
Yeah.
I went ahead and made it a career. So
fair. Yeah.
No, I'll expand on that a little bit. So VATS is about stopping time completely and targeting specific body points, and it has like a to hit percentage, and you do more damage in Fallout. That's basically what it is. In VAT, in the Outer Worlds, it's a time dilation. So because of the freezing process and you wandering space for 70 years without any objective, you kind of got brain damage. And this is one of the side effects of brain damage, is that you can essentially slow down time indefinitely until you kind of take an action. So there's a little bar in the top left, and that will slowly tick down when you're in this mode. And then while you're in this mode, you can kind of target them, see little notes about them, how much armor they have.
Can I interrupt you for just a second?
Yep.
Your character has brain damage, so he has he gains the ability to slow down time.
Yep.
I have to play this game.
How good is that?
Like everything has some sort of dark satire tied to it, and I love it. I love hearing this sort of stuff.
I think it actually feeds into the story as well. I think the companions actually comment on it, so that it should be interesting. Yeah, it should be interesting.
I also heard there's like a dialogue option where you can just be dumb.
Yes. Yes. So if you put the least amount of points into your intelligence, there is actually dialogue options, guys, for you to select, which is just you saying stupid shit like, duh, we should trust him, like stuff like that. And your companions will actually comment on how stupid you are. They're like, don't listen to our captain. He's a little...
Yeah, that was one of the like really fun things you could do in the old Fallout games. I love that they're leaning into like these fan favorite things that kind of garnered their own following. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, so you can kind of target their specific body parts, or you can look at their armor and what they're good against and what they're bad against. And then if you do move or do take a shot, then it absorbs more of the bar, more of the meter of this time dilation meter. So you can kind of slow down time. You can take your time and think, but once you do actually take an action, then combat begins. So it's a very interesting take on that. It's very similar. And then your companions, like Arekkz was saying, once you kind of do their loyalty or you get their special ability, it'll kind of zoom in on them when they activate, and they'll do some special flourish. Like one character will get out a minigun and do like this kind of fire-based, like acid sort of damage. I don't know what they're calling it. And then just rapid fire and riddle someone with bullets. Then another character will get out his massive hammer and do like a lightning attack. So they all have their kind of attacks that are good against certain, which is encouraging you to get really good at getting your companions' loyalty. Then there's a leadership skill which you can foster as a character. So there's stealth, there's combat, dialogue, and then there's leadership, all different ways you can kind of approach situations. And leadership is about you being weak, but making your companions really strong and then building you up as a character. So if you have a companion with great lockpicking skill, you'll naturally get more lockpicking by having them with. But if you foster leadership, you'll get even more from that, and they'll be even more powerful. And there is a hint you can bring two companions with you, but there's a hint that you can bring 3 with leadership if you build it up far enough. So there's a lot of cool things around the VAT system, around combat in general. But back to the playthrough, Arekkz got to go in with stealth, which was really cool. I got to try another stealth approach, a different take on stealth, which was using this hollow field, which kind of cloaks you and cloaks your companions. And then you have to walk through the front door of the facility and negotiate your way through. Yeah, so there's this little bar. The closer you get to things, the more it ticks down. And once it reaches the bottom, then you'll get approached by a guard. The guard will say, you know, what are you doing here? And you got to kind of like talk your way out of it. So if you got really good negotiating skills, you can get through kind of like James Bond. It was a case when I was watching that a robot walked up to the character and was like, "What are you doing?" And he intimidated the robot by basically suggesting that the robot was malfunctioning and he wanted to send him to the mechanic. And one of the developers said, "Yeah, even in this world, the robots are scared of going to the doctor."
It's good. So like this is part of the reason why like I love Borderlands humor so much, because they kind of do the same thing in a different way. Like I put out a gameplay clip after E3 where I kill this guy, and one of his death animation voices or dialogue things are, "My chili recipe dies with me." And like it was just like when I'm doing the capture, I couldn't help but laugh because it's just such a ridiculous thing for somebody to say as they're dying. You know,
that is
it's
so
great.
good.
Super excited about
that's
Borderlands.
amazing.
Outer Worlds is sounding phenomenal. Let me ask you guys both one more question. If you had to say one thing was your favorite thing about Outer Worlds, what would you say it was about your demo? What has got you excited? Start with you, Arekkz.
I think for me it has to be the world. I think it's just like there's, especially in this kind of, you know, age of bleak beige looking games, it's nice just when you have like bright colorful games. I must be the Nintendo kid in me, but yeah, I think the world, it's one of those worlds where like I just want to explore it. So obviously there's all the abilities and stuff, but definitely the world stood out to me as like a really interesting thing.
Yeah. Dantics?
I'm actually really excited for the narrative. So we know that Obsidian, has done Fallout 1, 2, New Vegas, South Park, Stick of Truth, Pillars of Eternity, all these really interesting games. And while demoing The Outer Worlds, just the little nods to kind of those games and a little nods to all like they're basically the RPG grandfathers, the people making this. I was just so enthralled. I just wanted to know more. I wanted to see more of the story. I wanted to see more of the like random bits of humor in the side quests, like the bacon flavored tuna of pigs. That was just nuts. So And all the corporations have their own little flares. Like there's one corporation which is just candy. Their whole theme is candy. So if you get a gun that's going to be candy themed, which is just really weird. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't wait to see more of it. I can't wait to see more of the narrative.
As a player of Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, and a fan, because those are two of my favorite games of all time, I'm really, really excited to see more about Outer Worlds. And hopefully we'll be talking about it again this October when it launches, right? It's coming out this year. That's crazy.
It is.
Moving on, I think we'll go to the Anthem story next. I was just getting it sort of prepped. So there's a few things going on with EA. That's a separate topic. And Anthem. So EA talked about their loot boxes, calling them, they're not loot boxes, they're surprise mechanics.
Surprise.
Who handles your PR at this company? Who let you go to a court and say that on the record? Are you stupid? He also compared it to children's toys. He said it's been in Kinder Eggs or Hatchimals or Lol Surprise. And
But
he
isn't
compared
Kinder
them
Eggs
more to that.
illegal over there?
Yeah.
Aren't Kinder Eggs illegal over in America? Am I wrong?
I don't know if they're illegal. I think that's because they're a choking hazard. But the thing is, he compared
So are AR-15s.
he compared something targeted to children, like little kids, to something they're putting in games. So I'm like, oh, so your target audience is children? That doesn't make you look better. It was just really, really bad messaging. And I just had to talk about it really quick. I reacted to this on the Daily Fix, and I'm reading it like live because I didn't have time to proof the script. And I'm like, I want to just facepalm. That's all I want to do. I'm like, you're a $1 billion corporation. How do you not have your shit together to the point that you call loot boxes surprise mechanics? That's your defense? That's like the dog ate my homework of defenses, you know? Like, what are you thinking? Okay, anyway, Anthem. We're here to talk about Anthem. So, they also talked about Anthem. CEO Andrew Wilson had a few comments. Talking to GameIndustry.biz. This is from IGN.com. Check out that little website if you haven't. So he talked about Anthem and their goals with it. One was traditional BioWare story-driven content, and the other was action-adventure type content. This is what they wanted to deliver to the audience. About the 30 or 40-hour mark, they really had to come together and start working in on the Elder game. At that point, everyone kind of went, oh, hang on a minute. Now the calculation is off. That's correct. The promise was we can play together, and that's not working very well. He admitted, explaining that some players were expecting 100 hours of story while others were hoping for an advancement on games like Destiny. So let's just dive into that a little bit and talk about how we feel about his statements. Do you think he's correct? I have some immediate thoughts, so I'll just say, yeah, I think the game really, really falls apart after the 40-hour mark, and that's because they didn't develop their end game. We've kind of talked about it on the show. How do you guys feel? Do you feel like he's kind of just saying something that we all already know? And how do you react to that? Dantics, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's at a point now where they didn't need to say a statement, but he kind of said one that we were all already thinking. It wasn't a very hard-hitting... It wasn't anything that's not making any waves. We all kind of know that already. Even the diehard fan, I just made an Anthem video on the Cataclysms, and even the diehard fans are like, yeah, we know it's in a bad place. We know it needs a lot of work. So I'm expecting a little more. I want to hear a little more from you guys. Like, what are your plans? You know, are you going to continue to service this? I want to know from you, EA. I want to know. BioWare I've heard from firsthand, but sorry, go on, Destin.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because they did sort of say something about their support for the game. They say, if we believed that at the very core the world wasn't compelling people, if we believed at the very core that the characters weren't compelling people, or the javelin suits weren't compelling, or traversing the world and participating in the world wasn't compelling, then provided we hadn't made promises to our players. This is sort of out of context, so I apologize for the weird phrasing. I'm just reading the quote. We might not invest further, Wilson said. IP lives for generations and runs in these 7 to 10 year cycles. So if I think about Anthem on a 7 to 10 year cycle, it may not have had the start that many of us wanted, including our players. I feel that the team is really going to have to get there was something special and something great because they've demonstrated that they can. So that statement, yeah, Anthem 1 is not what it could have been. I think we all know that.
Yeah.
But
No, 100%. Yeah.
with his philosophy saying that it seems like they're going to still continue to support Anthem for 7 to 10 years. Yeah, in 10 years, maybe they can get somewhere where they need to be. But I hope to hell this is like a kick to the head and they learn their lesson. You know? Yeah.
So we're all at EA Play, all three of us, and we all got a chance to try the new content, and we all got a chance to talk to the devs, just for everyone at home. And for me specifically, what it looked like is they were upsizing their team, not downsizing. They still had a lot of passionate people there, so there's no doubt in my mind that they're still going to service this game as long as they can. You know, if it completely drops off and there's absolutely no, I don't think BioWare will be the ones abandoning it. I think it will be EA that pulls the plug. But there is a lot of passionate people still at BioWare. Ben Irving's kind of leading the charge with everyone there. He's still building the team up. He's still got really passionate people behind him. So I feel like, yes, they don't have the content now. That's 100% true. But maybe in the future there will be that Anthem 2.0, and that's what I'm holding.
Yeah. How do you feel about all this, Arekkz? You've been pretty quiet.
Yeah, I mean it's the same. I mean, same kind of thing. I think going back to the statement, I think it was kind of one of those sort of like obvious statements. I don't think when they released it, anyone was like, "Whoa, big surprise" kind of thing. But it might be one of those ones where they felt, from a publisher standpoint, they needed to kind of just officially say it, to be like, "By the way, hands up, we made a mistake, but we are acknowledging it." So that might have been one of those kind of par for the course sort of things. But with regards to the content, yeah, I mean, I think I genuinely think, like, you know, I had a chance to speak to obviously the developers at E3 anyway. Like, some of the stuff I don't. That was kind of behind closed door stuff, but like broadly speaking, just like you know, the general sentiment is that they genuinely believe, you know, they genuinely have like some great passion. They also have some great ideas, and I think the thing is, it's one of those ones where it's very easy for people to, you know, from a frustration point of view, when you're online, you're like, you know what, I was really looking forward to this game. It's not what I want, and then when they put out kind of tweets and stuff, people just kind of get angry, and you know, getting angry is never the answer. But I can understand people's frustrations when you have the opportunity, and I appreciate not a lot of people do, but when you have the opportunity to actually sit down with the developers that are actually actively making this content and speak to them and be like, you know, this is good, this is bad, this is what needs to be done, and you realize, oh, actually they do have a vision for this, and they try to communicate whatever they can wherever they can. But you know, as part of development, there's some stuff they can communicate now, there's some stuff they'll obviously communicate in time. But I have this, I genuinely feel like, you know, when we sat down and spoke to them, like they have a genuine vision. They understand the place where the game's at right now, and I honestly feel like they can get to it. I do think it's going to take a while, but. And I think, you know, they're also mindful that, you know, and a lot of people have said the same kind of thing. I mean, like, the content that we play right now, the Cataclysm, like, it's something to do. It's not the solution. It's not going to bring people back. It's not going to be a thing where everyone turns around, they're like, oh my goodness, I need to come back for the Cataclysm. I feel like for the players that are actively playing right now, it'll give them something to do. For anyone that has lapsed, it probably isn't the answer. However, I feel like they still have, they're in this weird position where they have an obligation to be like, we have to do something for you right now, because we appreciate players are still wanting a reason to play, so we have to put something out. We can't just like go dark. So there's kind of, you know, it's kind of, I see Cataclysms almost like how, you know, when Destiny was in that slow period, and then they had the live team that made like the small content that you could play there and then, while the team was working the bigger stuff. So I see like Cataclysm as something developed by like a live team where they're like, we're going to fill a gap for you. You know, it might not be the answer, but it's going to be something. Meanwhile, they're working on something bigger. And I genuinely feel like, and, you know, I do genuinely feel like they can get there. I do think it's going to take quite a while, and it might even be a case of, we might be like, you know, this time next year that we see it. And I don't know how long it'll be, but, you know, I've said time and time again that I'm happy to wait. Like, you know, like I love the core of the game. And if they can find a way to make it fun, I will 100% come back and play. So,
I honestly think they need to burn the whole thing to the ground and start rebuilding from square one. With what works. The flying mechanics work, right? The combo system is a good combo system. I think that works. Yeah. Their loot is absolutely fucked. You know, like, it's terrible. And like, if that's the part that needs to be addressed, they have something there, and I always come back to this. They have something there, but I don't think it can be realized in this version of the game. I think they need to do a lot of rebuilding from the core. And
so it needs to go from Frostbite to Frost Munch or something before you think it'll... They need to change the overall structure, or?
To a development tool that they're more comfortable with, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of places have reported on, like the Jason Schreier article talked about how the game was sort of in development hell and how they rebooted. And it's funny because funny's not the right word, but they also went through the same problem with Andromeda. Andromeda kind of apparently had like a reboot so close to launch that it's astounding that they were able to release anything. And I lost my slipper. Give me a second. Yeah. So
priorities.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy to think that happened twice, and it is refreshing to hear that somebody higher up at EA is saying stuff like the studio needs to evolve. I think I closed the link to it, but there was a quote talking about how BioWare needs to change their development strategy. And I would agree with that. So something's going on. During the EA Play event, you guys were able to give feedback directly to the developers, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
And I remember I was hanging out with you guys. We were just kind of talking or whatever. I was trying to get a cup of coffee. And we ran into the guys. They said hello. It was really nice. They're really, really nice people who actually do care about this game, which is why it's just hard for me to dunk on them. And I don't really have a lot of incentive to do that. But when they ask for feedback, I don't really have much to say. I'm like, you have all the feedback you could possibly have in the whole entire world. You have a subreddit that's telling you what they want. You know, you have us players regularly making videos telling you what you want. You have your internal developers who play Destiny telling you what Destiny does well and that you could rely on for design mechanics. So for me to just add to the pile, I don't know how much value they actually get out of that. You know,
I think sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, so like I don't really say anything. I'm like, I feel like you guys are the developers. You guys have a bombardment of feedback from everybody ranging from super angry to the more level-headed content creators who are giving you direct feedback. Like, how much more do you need to hear?
I think they know. I think they already know.
Yeah.
Sorry, Arekkz, please continue.
Yeah.
No, I was literally to say I think the only one kind of saving grace or those like feedback sessions that does provide value is sometimes it allows you to just kind of get like a, admittedly it's only a small group of people, but it gives you kind of like a more condensed feedback point of view, because while they have like plenty of their stuff with like subreddits and YouTube and everything like that, there's a lot of the time where it's just like it's very easy to get lost in the noise, right? When there's so many Reddit threads of people like, I hate this game, I'm so angry, man, and like YouTube videos of people like for the clickbait being like, this is the worst thing in the world, EA stole your money. It's like it's not quite like that, right? So so for a developer, obviously they can look at all this stuff and they can do that, but sometimes to be able to sort of sit down, because what I've often found with those feedback sessions sometimes is that it's a chance for the developer to say, we're thinking of trying something, what do you think? And admittedly, not to say that, that doesn't mean to say that we speak for the masses. My opinion might be very different to someone else's, and they might be like, well, I don't want you speaking for me. Fair enough. But I think from a developer point of view, they might be like, well, look, you're an engaged player still. We were thinking of trying this thing. What do you think? And we can just be like, that is crazy talk. Do not do that. Please just stop. Or we'll be like, actually, that sounds kind of cool. Or have you thought about this? And obviously, the important thing is that in those situations, you still need to kind of think about it in like a sensible manner, because you don't go into those kind of chats and be like, oh, here's how you fix the game, because like they have to kind of think about things in a sensible way. They're like, this is what we can feasibly do right now. Let's talk about the scope, and here's our bigger idea. So I definitely get what you mean. Like, there's plenty of feedback out there, and as Dante said, they know, like they know deep down what needs to be done. I think just sometimes it's like it's having that dialogue and being able to be like, well, here's what we're thinking of doing. What do you think?
You were there, Arekkz. You arrived a little, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes after it started. The feedback session started, but nothing really happened before you got there. I felt sort of like they had the opposite problem in that feedback session. They were kind of in an echo chamber of positivity. So I was me, Arekkz, and another guy. We were the only ones really providing any feedback. The rest of them were kind of just very happy with what they had. Now, that's fine. That is completely fine to be stoked on brand new content. Completely okay. But I don't feel like they really got what they could have gotten from that feedback session if they got a more varied audience. But I think that's another problem.
Yeah, I think I think at the same time they can just sort of they can filter through. They can take stuff, and it's kind of sort of good to hear from different players and be like, you know what, if we're a player that's playing every single day, like here's some stuff that we did right, here's some stuff that we didn't do. Then maybe they can they can then sift through that afterwards from like a analytical point of view and be like, all right, maybe more of that, maybe less of that, and then maybe we'll land somewhere good. So I do definitely, but yeah, I think the overarching thing is that they know, like. It might sound crazy to say again if anyone's listening to this and obviously they haven't spoken to developers, they'll be like, "What do you mean they know what they're doing? Like how they clearly?" It's like, but I do think like they know where they're going. It's going to take them a while, so it's very easy to think to say like, "Oh, they have no idea." It's like no, they have a vision. It's just going to take them a while to get there, and along that road, they're obviously going to try and give us stuff that we can do, and that might just be stopgaps. That might just be stepping stones. That might not be the best way to do it, but since it's a running service game, I feel like they're in a situation where that's the way they're going to have to do it. Right? They're going to have to just be like, "Here's some content." I don't think they are in a position where they can say, we're going to pull the plug for a year and we'll be back next year. I don't think that they can do that. Yeah. So I think this is the path we're on. So we just got to hang on and see where it goes.
So they didn't officially, guys, tell us that they're going to work on something bigger. They didn't officially say anything.
Yeah, we're assuming.
But we're assuming a lot here. But from my impression, and I think from the other boys here's impressions, it was that they are working on more content and they are working on something bigger. That's the impression I got. So
I wanted
take that with a grain of salt.
I wanted to elaborate a little bit on something that you said, Arekkz, about the companies. I think there is a fundamental problem somewhere in the pipeline, be that with EA, be that with BioWare, when they're in the development process. Something is happening that is wrong. And it's not that they stole our money, and it's not that they don't know what they're doing, but there is something wrong internally. There's wires that aren't getting where they need to go. There are development tools that aren't working. Jason Schreier's article was pretty eye-opening to hear that like people are giving this feedback and it's just not going anywhere. And sometimes you need to take a look holistically at how a company is structured internally and maybe figure out some different tools and different services so that you're not burning people out, so that people aren't just coming in, putting in their hours and just waiting for, it to be over basically. And I understand that there is crunch in the industry and it's a problem that needs to be solved for sure. You're just going to lose staff. And if you continue down this road in the way that you are, I unfortunately believe that BioWare could cease to exist someday because you can't develop a production house that way. It won't work.
And you're a massive BioWare fan as well, Destin. As far
I am a huge BioWare fan. They're one of my favorite studios. I've been to Edmonton offices several times. I do not want BioWare to fail. I hope that they figure. I hope that after that article came out, like we saw the responses immediately. I hope that made them take a long, hard look at what went wrong with their last two games and fix those internal problems so that they can have a better work-life balance for their employees. And honestly, that's going to lead to a better product. You need people coming 100%. In with a clear direction about what you're working towards as a team. I'm still a BioWare fan. I still believe in BioWare, and I will until they no longer exist, because I've met enough people from there that love video games, and they just want to make cool shit for everybody watching this show, for everybody in the world. They want to tell their stories, and right now there's something going on with the internal stuff that's not allowing them to fully realize those visions. The idea that a year out you press the reset button is insane to me. It's insane that's what's happening.
I think one of the things that's interesting as well. I mean, like obviously, from like the article and stuff, there's obviously like a something that they need to address between like BioWare and EA. But I think broadly, like looking bigger than this as well, it seems to be like an interesting kind of dilemma and problem that any game in this MMO light space seems to have, because Destiny had similar problems, like not necessarily to this same extent, but Destiny has similar problems like during its life cycle where there were different teams that were like different leadership teams that were clearly wanting to go in different directions, and as a result the game kept on changing. It's like, do we want to be more RPG, do we want to be more story, do we want to be more this, and then each time it went one way the other side suffered. And even to, I mean, maybe to a slightly lesser extent, but even like Division, you know, on one hand, it's like, oh, is it going to be more PvP focused with like a lot of like, you know, hardcore focus? Is it going to be more casual focused? So I feel like when you have these games that are so vast and have so many different teams, and and obviously within each of those teams, you've got to have leads, right? If everyone's got their own vision that they're trying to champion, and there's no single person at the top that can unify and be like, this is the direction we are going. I feel like these kind of games are always going to go through that weird fluctuation period where until they go through these problems, they suddenly hit like a base point where they're like, oh, this is clearly what our player base want. So yeah, sure. I mean, maybe like the Anthem might be like the extreme example, but I feel like in any of these types of games, we've seen this happen multiple times before.
I've got like a physical example of maybe the internal turmoil, whichever you pronounce it. Basically, the new content, I'm going to give you a little hint of the video I just released, but the internal content Cataclysm, I feel like it's very compartmentalized. It feels like the combat team was working in their own little section, the environment team was working in their own little section, narrative and so forth are all sitting in their own compartments, and then at the end it was all kind of pushed together. Now, that's how it felt to me, and I think that's probably how the company is running right now, unfortunately. And it's really sad, and it doesn't work. For example, if you wanted to put in a puzzle in the Cataclysms, why isn't it working together with the combat? It doesn't. They're two separate things. So the puzzle should be combat based, for example. The enemy should be interesting, have some mechanics that you need to coordinate your team around. You know, maybe you need to attack it from the back while you have a specific item, for example. It could be something like that. Instead, right now it functions as in you need to shoot certain pillars while you're fighting, and that's the puzzle. And it's just not quite enough. It just doesn't work seamlessly together. And to me, that feels like they're just not talking internally. There's not a coordination internally, because individually they're very talented. There's a very, very talented people over in BioWare, and I've talked to them all directly, and they're all super passionate. You know, the world designer, you know, he's got this vision for it, but then I don't think he's getting the opportunity to work together with someone who is in charge of the combat. So what do you guys think? Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, of course there's talented people at BioWare. They've created some of my favorite worlds in history.
That wasn't the question.
Yeah. What's the question?
The question, I didn't phrase it correctly. Like, did you feel like things were compartmentalized when you got the chance to play, and that kind of led into the feeling like
it's disjointed.
Company wasn't together?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like Cataclysm definitely feels like a lot of different sections put together. So, but that Cataclysm as a whole is a bit of a like. There's some interesting aspects in there. There's some aspects that do work, but there's as a whole, it just does feel like a few different pieces put together. So yeah, I'm not really sort of too sure. I almost see the Cataclysm as like a testing ground for them, just like throw things in there. Because if you take some of the individual mechanics, like some of the little bosses that pop up and some things like that, there's some really cool things in there they could then expand on. But as like a whole experience is, but who knows? Maybe they'll use this PTS time to like do some feedback. So by the time the Cataclysm actually rolls out, maybe they'll change it up a little bit.
For sure. I know a lot of people don't like that we talk about Anthem regularly, but I do want to give a shout out to the first person to say that they love loot drops who I met at E3. He said, I love that you guys talk about loot drops, that you talk about Anthem, and he just said thank you. And that is the first time that anybody has said anything in person about this particular show and not about Fireteam Chat or any of my other many projects. So thank you to that person. And on the Anthem note, the reason I keep coming back to it is because it's sort of a fascinating story about a game with potential that failed, a game that could potentially have a redemption story, and I love redemption stories, and I'm hopeful that we get another one here with Anthem. And it's also about a studio that I truly believe in at the end of the day that is potentially currently troubled right now, and I hope that they find their path again to create those epic stories that we are used to. On that note, you know who has been knocking it out of the park lately? Capcom.
Yes.
So let's make the smooth transition to Monster Hunter : World : Iceborne, which our good friend sitting right here, Arekkz,
I've been playing
has been talking
all weekend.
and playing a
9
lot of
videos in 2 days, did you say, Arekkz?
Oh my god.
I mean, the
Go
credit
check out
obviously goes
Arekkz.
credit also goes to the team. I can't take all that credit. The team has also been working hard for that one. But yeah, we're just trying to like churn out as much as possible. Honestly, yeah, but the beta is great. Beta is great. There's so much stuff as well that I've seen in this that wasn't. So I went into the beta assuming it was going to basically be the E3 build, which essentially it is. But they also threw in the training mode and they also threw in some additional stuff. And there's some really good quality of life changes. Like just without even talking about some of the new stuff and how it plays, like quality of life, there's some like really nice stuff. There's some HUD changes. There's some just like additional options that used to frustrate people in like world that they fixed. So just like a few things like that, really cool. But yeah, the Iceborne is really nice. Like a lot of like I think we kind of touched on this like briefly before, but like a lot of the weapons have all been given new moves. So there's no new weapons. What Iceborne is that we know so far is a new area. So this massive map, which is the biggest one we've had to date. The beta doesn't have the whole map in it. It's like part of it. And as we know about the game, like narratively speaking, when you go through the story, it'll then reveal more parts of the map, which is pretty cool. There'll be new monsters in there. There'll be returning monsters. So the beta has a familiar monster from World, which is just great Jagras. So if you haven't played for a while, you can go in and just familiarize yourself. Then you've got the two new. You've got the one new monster, which is Bambaro, the big moose with the horns, and you've got Tigrex, who is a returning monster from previous games, but it's like a fan favorite that everyone is happy to see back.
Why is everybody freaking out about Tigrex? Why is that a big deal?
So he is there's two freakouts, right? So on one hand he's just a really cool monster. He was introduced back in Monster Hunter Freedom 2nd, which is the second one on the portable device. He's kind of like the make or break for Monster Hunter, right? Like he will teach you. He'll either make you put the game down, or you will then get past him and be like, I understand Monster Hunter, right? He's like a very, very awesome monster. He's hyper aggressive, very difficult. He kind of goes.
Do you remember you have a shield when you're playing as a lance? You're like, I'm gonna use this shield now.
I bet you're exactly right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He makes you use that. But he, I mean, like obviously, I'm used to fighting world, so the challenge isn't quite so bad. But anyone that hasn't before, he's a big challenge. But part of the commotion this week has also been because the localization director has officially, because bear in mind, up until this point, like Monster Hunter was never voiced before. It was always like on the PSP, or the 3DS or anything like that. So pronunciation for monster names has always been very much however you say it. Now that we have the handler who can say things and she'll call up monster names, they have officially confirmed how you pronounce it, right? Now I like to pride myself, right, that I have been pronouncing it correct this whole time, but some people are losing their proverbial shit because, right, Tigrex is basically a tiger and a T-Rex. So pronunciation wise, people think it's Tigrex, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, it is T. So they've been saying Tigrex, like Tigger or like tiger, or no, rewind. People have been saying Tigrex, as in like Ty or tiger, right?
Yeah.
For the longest time. I have said Tigrex, right? Because technically speaking, from Japanese pronunciation, it's Tigreksu. So I call it Tigrex. And then they officially pronounced the other day that it is Tigrex, right? So like now, if ever I've been tweeting with like a cup of tea, right, I'm just trying to drill it home that this is how you pronounce it. So then now
That's what that means.
This week, everyone has been getting super, and they're like, no, it is not. It is a tiger and a T-Rex, so it must be Tigrex. And it's like, nope, I'm just gonna sit here and drinking my tea. So yeah, that's basically the story behind that. But yeah, he's also just a very cool monster, and also partly, he goes hand in hand with Naga-Kuga, who is already pre-confirmed. Who they share a similar skeleton, and then people are thinking that if you've got Naga and you've got Tigrex, does that also mean that we could potentially have Baroth, who's like another like slow version of it? So there's a lot of kind of cool potential for it. But yeah, he's a very awesome monster. He's very fitting given that Iceborne introduces Master Rank, which is the next tier of difficulty. So he's going to be like yo, you better learn how to hunt kind of monster.
Cool. As people know, Dantics, you don't play Monster Hunter, right?
I do. I play Dauntless a lot, and I jumped back into Monster Hunter recently, and man, Dauntless has ruined me because I forget all the mechanics in Monster Hunter. What's this armor stuff? What I have to sharpen my hammer? Like, why do I have to sharpen a hammer?
It's important. It's important things. So Arekkz, this is endgame content, or is this like if you buy the whole kit and caboodle, do you get access to this, or is this endgame?
So this is Endgame. So this will pick up after the story of World. So my understanding, I mean, they haven't said anything yet, but the way they've kind of explained it is that they said you have to get through World. So it doesn't sound like there's going to be any kind of interim boost. It sounds like, you have to have played World. So if you were like seeing Iceborne, you're like, oh, I should get in, then you probably need to get caught up. But this is basically, so the way that Monster Hunter is always structured, you have low rank, high rank, and G rank. And in Iceborne, they're calling G rank Master rank just because it makes more sense for everyone. But yeah, it's basically it's the end game tier. Any monster you fought before in the past. The nice thing is that when you go from low rank to high rank in previous Monster Hunter, it's basically just like more health, more damage. When you go to Master rank, if you fight those same monsters, they are stronger, but they also invariably have some new moves. So we actually got a quick look. If you go in the Ancient Forest during this beta, and you go to the top and you find Rathalos, you can see Rathalos showing off some of the new moves. It's got like some crazy aggressive fireballs, some new moves and stuff. Obviously, with that, it also means that any monsters you fought before and you fight them in Master Rank, they have completely new armor sets, they have new weapons. So there's a whole ton of new stuff. So Iceborne, although it's technically speaking a DLC, it can effectively be seen as like a brand new game in itself because the Monster Hunter expansions are always essentially just that, base game on top. So you can expect a ton of stuff.
Got it.
Looking forward to it.
Cool.
So you two, there's something I need to tell you.
Okay.
You're both breathtaking. Did you guys see the Cyberpunk presentation?
I was there in the Xbox thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you were
so
there. I saw you
brilliant.
taking photos with your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we were all there, but we didn't meet up, which was
That moment when Keanu walked out on stage was mind-boggling. Like I couldn't believe it was happening. Yeah, it was.
I was fangirling so much. I was like, oh
Mate,
my God,
I've been a fan of Keanu since like the Bill and Ted days. So I was like, yo.
Yeah.
My movie was
fan
Point
since
Break.
Neo.
Point Break. That was my movie, and I'm like, I like this guy. I'm gonna watch all his movies. So I started watching like everything. Of course, I saw Bill and Ted when I was a kid, but yeah, I'm old. Spoiler warning. But yeah, definitely an amazing moment. I did have one more topic that I wanted to talk about at the end of the show. I know I'm known as the Destiny guy, but something amazing just happened like a little bit before the show. Dr. Lupo raised nearly $1 million. They broke their goal of $3 million. They had a goal of raising $3 million for St. Jude's Hospital, and I believe they got to 3.7.
He did nearly $1 million in his own block. Wow.
Yeah. So he did nearly $1 million in his own block. Bungie did 400,000. A lot of really, really great stuff for some kids. If you're going to Guardian Con, I'm actually going to be out there this year. I found out a few days ago from IGN. Yeah, so they raised $3.7 million plus $3,719,302 was the total amount. Their goal was $3 million. They crushed it. Shout out to those guys. And if you're going to the event, be sure to say hi. Are you going, Arekkz or Dantics? Either you guys heading out there?
I unfortunately will not be able to, no.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
One
I'll
of these
be
years
there.
I will. I'll definitely make it.
I'll be there with CJ. And yeah, we'll see just what else they can do for kids. It's just such a good feel-good event. On the Destiny front, I did want to briefly talk about just how great Destiny has been lately.
Didn't they get rid of their surprise mechanics shop?
Oh yeah, they basically burnt it to the ground. And sometimes that's what you gotta do.
Yeah, I saw Luke being like, "Hey, delete all this stuff because we're gonna give it back to you." It's like, oh, okay.
So it's so interesting to see Luke like being so, just direct and honest about where they are at with the game. I think he knows what he can say and what to hold back on, and it's just nice to see them kind of revisit Destiny and change things that need to be changed as they can. Not Lord of Wolves, though. Thanks a lot, guys. But yeah, and the Eververse is better. We're going to see how things go in September, but they're making a lot of positive changes. I'm sure I'll be complaining in September about something, as I always do. But this is just great so far, and I'm really, really excited for the future of this game. And right now, there's just so much to do. I don't know what happened. It's like the new season started. It has an excellent raid, and I'm just in. I'm like all in. I have characters that I got to get to 750. I'm excited about all the new Guardians coming in. I am adding new people to the clan and everything. And yeah.
Awesome.
Are either of you guys going to be more incentivized to play Destiny again once New Light starts and there's a faster path to 750? Yeah.
So I'm
Arekkz.
100%. I mean, like, I think sort of as I've mentioned on the show before, like even though I don't play right now, like I actively follow Destiny because I've been with it since the alpha of Destiny 1, right? So like I've always been interested, but like the past two, well, what's happening right now is quite interesting, but at the moment I'm in that weird position where I'm like, I would like to jump back in, but my process to getting up to speed, I just don't have the time for that. So yeah, 100% when they spoke about New Light, we're definitely gonna, like, we're all speaking as like the kind of a group the other day, that we're all gonna jump back in for Shadowkeep, and I'm actually gonna go back in from a kind of a different perspective. So I'm not going to go back into Shadowkeep with the intention of creating content to begin with. I'm just going to go back in as a fan of Destiny and be like, let me just see where it's at and see if I enjoy it again. And then if I'm back in and I'm like, you know what, they've got me back, I'm really passionate about this again, then I'll start making some content again. But if like but yeah, I'm just excited just to, like, for once, be able to jump in Shadowkeep and be like, let me just see what the game has to offer. Let me just see if this is where I want it to be. Because I will admit, like, when I watched their presentation, there was definitely some interesting stuff, but there was also some parts where I was like, it sounds cool, but I'm still, partly speaking, more excited about whatever they're working on after Shadowkeep. But yeah, with that New Light, that's definitely made my choice a lot easier because I know that, you know, having spoken to you, like you're saying, there's been some really great changes recently, but I've just been like, we spoke about it the other day for like this upcoming raid. We're like, would it be feasible for us to get back in and get up to speed in time? Which, like, we just can't do it. So yeah, 100% with the New Light thing, I'm gonna jump back in.
Yeah. What about you, Dantics? Can I convince you to play Destiny with me at some point, and I drag you through?
You could, but you'd have to really sweeten the deal. You'd have to be like, I'm gonna hold your hand the whole way through. I'm gonna enjoy this game. I'm not gonna abandon you like all your friends in this game.
How about I make it free?
I've already got the game.
So there's no barrier to entry, and then in September we take you through those, you know, 740 light or whatever power up bounties, and then we just go on some adventures. How does that sound?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Adventures sound amazing. I actually, just to quickly segue and then jump back, I actually went back into Fallout 76 recently.
Oh.
That's something I probably want to talk about next episode.
How was that?
It was, I gotta be honest, it was surprisingly good. I was having a lot of fun playing with friends. There was one bug that really was driving me, because like a map screen bug, if you highlight it over a mate, it crashes to desktop. That seemed to happen quite a bit. But besides that, everything else was working really well. I set the field of view a little wider, and I was really enjoying myself. There's this battle royale mode now, and that was a bit of fun. I was getting my ass kicked, but it was a bit of fun. And they're going to introduce some NPCs very soon. So some story missions, more in-depth story missions. So I'm really excited for that, actually. I'll have more to say next week, but
yeah, me too.
It's been good.
Yeah, I mean, really, I know I'm the only one all in on the Destiny train right now, but if you want to see more on Destiny, check out youtube.com/fireteamchat. The last two videos from Dantics were about Outer Worlds and Anthem, and kind of where he thinks the state of Anthem is and why he's excited about Outer Worlds, so if you want to check that out. And Arekkz is all in on Monster Hunter, so be sure to check him out for more content. That's all I had, guys. Is there anything else you want to call out before we sign off? Can
I quickly shout out Games Done Quick? Have you guys heard of Games Done Quick?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So it's GDQ. They actually are starting today, and they are a huge charity for Doctors Without Borders. They raised, I just put it in the chat right now, they just raised $2.39 million in their last event. Prior to that was 2.1 million. Prior to that was 2.2. Prior to that was 1.1. And so on and so forth. They have raised a lot of money for charity, guys. So if you like speedrunning, check them out. They're gamesdonequick.com. It finishes the 30th of June, so you get a bit of time. So shout outs to them.
That's awesome. Yeah. Anything from you, Arekkz?
No, just
ready
enjoy
to
games,
go?
Guys.
Yeah.
Enjoy games. Stop hating games, man. Like, have a you know what? Actually, no, I do want to round it with something, right? I did a vlog for E3 the other day, right? And I was like, you know what? Right, I came back from E3. I really enjoyed this year's E3, right? And everyone else must have been asleep, because I came back and I was like, you know what, this is great. So many great announcements, and even in my vlog, I like, okay, maybe my title was a little enthusiastic, but I was like, is this one of the best E3s? Not like, for me, it was actually one of the best E3s I've been to in recent years. And loads of people are like, no, man, there was nothing at E3. I'm like, yo, you guys must have been asleep, because like there was like Nintendo smashed it out of the park. And I think a lot of people, right? I think basically anyone that said that there was nothing at E3 is clearly only a PlayStation player and was like, PlayStation aren't there, therefore E3 does not happen, therefore I'm going to turn this off. Because like, I'm sorry, right? But like, controversial statement, but like, yo, you guys must have been asleep. If you didn't see Phantasy Star Online 2, Tales of Arise, Elden Ring, like Cyberpunk,
Banjo
Mario,
and Smash. That's all.
Zelda,
That's all I care
Banjo,
about.
everything, and a Breath of the Wild sequel. Okay, I'll admit, because
The
I'm a
Breath of the
massive
Wild
fanboy,
sequel for sure.
Yeah.
that's basically
sure.
why it's one of the best E3s for me, because anytime there's Zelda, it's
Oh.
I'm slightly biased.
They were playing the Nintendo Direct the first day of E3, and I was standing around waiting for everything to open up because the media gets in a little early. And when that hit the floor, the whole place just went nuts. Like you couldn't hear anything but screams. Like people were like, yeah. And that kind of atmosphere is electric, guys. Like you had to have
That's
been there.
amazing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I love our war room, because everybody like loses it on the IGN staff when like an
Yeah,
announcement
yeah.
like that drops. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really,
and
really
guys,
cool.
check out IGN.com, and you'll probably see Destin in every second video because he has been working absolute butt off.
Everyone's like on comp days, so it's like me and my new hire who I'm training how to like do capture and like clips and stuff like that. She's doing great, but it's a lot.
Nice.
So it's like, Destin, we need you for daily fix, or do this dog petting game, or another thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I linked Destiny's petting game review just
No,
before
it's
the
just
show,
a-
and I was
just a
like, "This is
gameplay clip.
amazing, guy."
But it's
Yeah,
pretty
no,
cool.
It was cool. It
Yeah.
was cool. It was just like, yeah, cool. You've got the time to do this and do all the E3 stuff and do all stuff.
Yeah, I try and balance it all. But all that said, thank you guys for watching. I'm actually going to start streaming right after this, so if you're watching live, thank you so much for watching, and I will be back in like 2 minutes. I just need to reset the set and everything, and come back, and we'll be playing Destiny, grinding out to 750 on my Titan. And for you guys, thank you so much for joining me. We do the loot. What do we do for loot drops again, Arekkz? You take us out. Bloop. Bloop. Bye, everybody.
Bloop.
Yeah. See you next week.
Guys, next week.
What is up, everybody? Hey, guys. So I'm back, and I'm going to be playing a little bit of Destiny today. I was going to go take some more bird photos, but I opted to play this for you guys. I thought I would capitalize on that. If you're watching over on youtube.com/the Destin channel, A, thank you. B, I'm going to end the stream now because I don't want to do long-form live streams on that channel anymore. I'm mostly going to be doing them exclusively on twitch.tv/the Destin channel. If you're watching on Fireteam Chat, and you could watch over at twitch.tv twitch.tv/the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. Bye to YouTube. The